Yeah, so Katie Nixon announced yesterday that he will be coming to USC for his final season. As you know, grad transfer, he'll be eligible to play right away. But he adds a dynamic to an already talented USC wide receiving core who's losing a couple of key players. But anytime you add a player like Nixon, you add him with McCoy, you add him with Drake London, you add him to that mix of talented receivers. I mean, it's a good get for USC, especially somebody who's already familiar with the Pac-12. So Nixon's going to be is going to be an interesting and a good dynamic for this USC team who's looking to commit to the air raid.
Then we also have Ishmael Sopsher. I remember his recruitment to Alabama. He was a top defensive tackle. He's had his issues trying to get on the field for the Crimson Tide. And also safety Xavier Alford, who spent his freshman season at Texas, didn't get on the field much, but had 4 tackles as a freshman. So a couple high recruited players coming out of high school that went to other big name schools. They're coming out to be with the Trojans.
Yeah, and this helps out the defense who, has a few questions that need to be plugged, especially again as we talk the departures for of players, key players going to the NFL draft. But now you have somebody who can. I don't want to say he's going to replace the production of Talanoa Hufanga because that's pretty hard to replace, but somebody who can you can plug in at that free safety spot, and then you have somebody who can who helps with the depth at defensive tackle at the defensive line. So some good pickups, some key pickups, but USC may not be done there. I mean, there's another transfer who USC is targeting and pursuing heavily in Henry 2020 from Tennessee. He's a linebacker out of Tennessee. He was a freshman All-American, actually, I believe, his first year at Tennessee. And if USC can land him, that will really help USC's linebacking core, especially a team who's missing Palote Neoteote, who entered the transfer portal in the middle of last season.
Toe led Tennessee in tackles. He's a tremendous player. He is a tremendous player, and he's off to a great start in his career, and he would be an excellent addition. Ishmael Sopsher, as we mentioned, not much playing time at Alabama, but coming out of the 2019 class was the 5th rated defensive tackle in the country and was a top 50 player. So a lot of talent there that could be molded and grow into a position there at USC. On the flip side, there are some pretty significant losses. Chase McGrath, 32 of 42 on field goals, but lost his job last season. So he was the kicker, of course, in 2019 and before. Marquis Stepp had to share carries in a loaded backfield, so not necessarily a guy that was counted on heavily, but he showed his flashes, scored 3 touchdowns this past year. And then Pele Gaotiotie, he also is in the transfer portal, hasn't gone anywhere yet.
No, he hasn't gone anywhere. And honestly, it sounds like USC is trying to keep him at USC. As we mentioned before, it seems that USC is going to try to keep him there. That could be the case. We don't know. He could decide, you know what, I'm going to come back, or he may decide to go elsewhere. Marquis Stepp, as mentioned, committed to Nebraska, which is a good get for Nebraska, for a team who wants to commit to running the football there. And he, as you mentioned, he showed his flashes as well. I mean, he was hard. He got tough yardage for USC. But as you mentioned, anytime you have Malapei, Beve Malapei, as well as a Stephen Carr, it's kind of hard to see carries like that, because you have a similar running back, especially in Malapei. So it was hard for him to get carries. And then he was hurt the time that he got a lot of carries. He got hurt in that odd game against Arizona, where we saw 3 of the running backs get hurt in that game last year. So I mean, ever since then, it was kind of hard for him to see carries like that. But I think at Nebraska, he can flourish. He'll see a ton of carries there. And I think that's actually a good situation for him, considering also he's from Indiana, so not too far from home.